Hello Fright fans, welcome back to my channel. Imagine a place where people would pass by, eagerly seeking out for the pretty boy who can unlock their fortunes, and a strange owner of a rather peculiar mansion, rumored to have possessed satanic powers who transformed each member of the community into blood fruits. Our grim adventure through the Junji Maniac series continues. Our first story today is called The Intersection's Pretty Boy. A young woman is waiting for someone across the street. The girl asks an unidentified man who suddenly arrives in the fog if her dream of finding love will come true. When he stares at her, that enigmatic man declares that their love will never come true. A boy called Ryosuke is admitted to the school during that week. He is a longtime city resident who recently moved back after a brief absence. Midori spoke to him after class. The girl inquires as to whether the boy recalled her from kindergarten. When Ryosuke sees the girl, he is glad to remember her. The two walk home together after class. Suzu, Midori's best friend and classmate, is introduced to him by Midori. All the boys fight for Midori's attention, Suzu informs Ryosuke. Many people even cross the intersection to ask the fate teller if they can be with her. Ryosuke becomes irritated when Suzu inquires about his knowledge of the tale surrounding the crossroads. He begs the girls not to make fun of the smith. He then departs, leaving the girls behind. Just before it got dark, Ryosuke was already in his room. The boy recalls how at this hour of the evening people would pass by the city's intersections in search of the handsome guys so they could ask them their fortunes. Most people use this time to determine whether their romantic dreams will come true. Ryosuke overhears a chat between two of the females in his class the following day. They were discussing a first-year student who had been discovered dead in the middle of a roadway. She had used a stiletto to cut her own neck. They continue to discuss a situation that occurred 8 years ago that was very similar. A woman who went to the crossroads to get her fate told ended up killing herself. The boy gets up when he hears this and leaves the room. Ryosuke recalls what took place when he was still a child in the schoolyard. A woman who wanted her fortune told stopped the youngster as he was going through the streets. She claimed to be carrying a child with a man who was married and has kids. She was in love with this man, but after telling him she was conceiving, he grew distant from her. The woman still cared for him and wished to know whether her wishes would be fulfilled. The youngster continued to run while claiming that this would never happen because he didn't comprehend anything. But the next day, he went back to the same location to learn what had become of the woman. Ryosuke discovered her dead when he got there. The youngster still held himself responsible for her death 8 years later. Midori shows in while the youngster is considering what has transpired and inquires as to what is upsetting him. The girl inquires if he has experienced any trauma connected to the mythology of the crossroad. After he replies that everything is good. She inferred this from his response the day before when Suzu inquired as to whether he was familiar with the legend. Midori tells him that her aunt unalived herself 8 years previously after having her fate told at the crossroads. After hearing this, the boy is paralyzed. He couldn't accept that he was the one who was blamed for the death of Midori's aunt. From that point on, he could no longer look at the girl. Suzu asks Ryosuke why he is ignoring her friend, but he refuses to tell her the truth. She then decides to go to the crossroads to talk to the handsome boy. When her buddies suddenly move away from the boy she likes, Suzu says her friend is sad and she wants to know what she can do to make things better. She should now focus more on her own romantic prospect, the boy says. She then goes to speak with Midori. In order to figure out how to unite Ryosuke and her friend, the girl claims she walked to a crossroad. Her deception of herself was revealed by the boy's comment. She then tells Midori that Ryosuke is her true love. She asserts that she has been in love with him ever since the youngster was transferred. Her next move is to introduce herself to him. Suzu persisted in pursuing him in spite of all the boy's effort to brush her off, and eventually, he made the decision to be open with her. The boy states he has no desire to interact with Suzu and admits to loving Midori. The girl already had a frightening expression at this point. As if her soul were being ripped from her body, she asserts that she did as the attractive boy at the crossroads advised, yet her wish for love was still unfulfilled. As time went on, more and more dead girls were discovered. Ryosuke made it clear that he didn't want anything to do with Suzu, but the young woman kept following him while sporting a spooky expression. The boy discovers he is being followed one day as he makes his way home. He expresses regret to Suzu for how he had treated her, but he reiterates that he is in love with Midori and is unable to date anyone else. Ryusuke resolves to come clean about his reasons for avoiding Midori. While he is beginning to recount the events 8 years ago, Suzu tears out her own neck with a stiletto. The boy resolves to take action against the attractive boy at the crossroads after this horrific incident. Then, Ryusuke begins to mimic the other person but acts in total opposition to him. Every afternoon, the youngster begins to cross the intersection, giving those who come to learn their fate hope. But one day, as he was carrying out his task, he was shocked to see the spirit of the girls who had unalived themselves. Even Suzu's spirit was discovered by him. The boy was nevertheless unable to cease performing his duties. Ryusuke struck Midori as odd, so she decided to follow him. The young lady claimed that she was aware that he was assisting individuals at the crossroads who desired fate-telling. But even then, it was going too far. The youngster now appeared to be possessed. When Midori inquires as to why he is going through all of this, Ryusuke responds that he won't stop until he locates the crossroads men. Later, when he is moving somewhere, he sees the attractive boy. When Ryusuke pursues him, he unknowingly finds himself being led to the spot where everything started 8 years earlier. There, he meets the aunt of Midori. Ryusuke moves toward the alley that the woman indicates. Midori finds the handsome lad from the crossroads as she looks for him. The girl is persuaded to have her fortune told, but Ryusuke interrupts her and inquires as to her whereabouts. According to Midori, the person he was looking for was present, but as they turn around, the handsome boy and the fog are no longer there. Did Ryusuke succeed in removing the curse, or was he the youngster from the crossroad himself? Now let's move on to the second tale called Blood Bubble Bushes. A boy named Ansai determines that they should seek help after their car breaks down. After some walking, they come across a small cabin where a group of kids is assembled. They appear somewhat evil. When Ansai inquires about whether they have a phone so he can call for assistance, they remain silent and start to tremble in wrath. Kana, the girl, believes it's time to go on. She alerts her companion shortly after the kids were following them. The boy isn't paying much attention, so the kids run in their direction and Kana is struck by a vine in the neck. They lose control and climb on top of the girl as soon as they notice the blood flowing down her neck. Kana is traumatized, but it appears that the pair misled the boys for a little period. The kids drank her blood. A small village stood in front of them. They noted that it appeared to be abandoned, and they suspected that the red stains all over the area might be blood. When Ansai knocks on one of the cabins, a young man who is quite pale answers. The pair asks to make a call after explaining all that occurred. They welcome them inside after the pale man explains that he can call anyone because of his lack of a phone, but that he can stop the girl's bleeding. He remarks that the kids are not locals and pop up occasionally as he applies some bandages to Kana. In that village, he is the only one living. The man speaks and consumes a cup of blood-red liquid as the couple keeps a careful eye on him since he seems suspicious. He claims that Kana makes him think of someone he holds in high regard. She was his devoted and lonely partner, and she frequently expressed that her blood wanted to leave her. She cut herself one day, and the boy drank her blood. In that wood, a tree bearing bloody fruits was eventually born over time. The girl was being drained more and more until she was entirely dry. Ansai became aware that it was getting late as he was telling the ominous tale, and the men advised them to stay the night there. Ansai awoke frightened and unsteady at daybreak. Kana had vanished. When he descends the hallway, he discovers blood on the floor. A room astonished him as it was right ahead, bubbles of blood in the roots. Ansai asked the pallid man about Kana's whereabouts. The man answers, "You must be dreaming," in response. Ansai is experiencing a lot of discomfort and he overhears a frightful voice warning him to flee. It was a man's body with hardly any signs of life. He warns Ansai that if they don't leave soon, they'll turn into one of them because the strange owner of the home utilized some satanic power to change every member of the community into a plant that bears blood fruits. When the boy returns to the room, Kana is seated on the bed. He starts to say that they must go right away. The homeowner interrupts him and said that they can even try, but they will eventually return because Kana already has a blood plant sprouting from her wound. The couple departs as Ansai ignores the unsettling house owner. However, Kana is getting increasingly exhausted as she travels. Ansai notices his hand has now been polluted as the wicked tree on Kana's neck becomes larger and larger. The boy remembers the resident's words. There's only one way to not end up totally dry. Eat your own blood fruit. However, this will turn you into a vampire insatiable for people's blood. Looking to the side, Kano was already consuming her blood bubble. It was over after that.